Welcome back to Doing Business in Bentonville. I am your host, Josh Safran, along with my co-host, Mr. Harvey Williams. How are you, Harvey?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good.
Yeah. How are you?
Happy to be here. And we've got Devin from Squint joining us.
Hello, Devin.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
We're happy to have you. We are the Whiskered Warehouse Warriors. So, Devin, again, you came prepared today, the little facial hair, which I love. Looking good. You've learned and heard about it. You've been growing that for the podcast, which I greatly appreciate.
Practicing.
Very on brand. Very on brand. Devin, we are going to get to Squint AI and have a great conversation with one of the coolest and hottest startups out there right now. But Elena, you are going to have to kick us off with an icebreaker to break into what we're doing today.
All right, guys. So we're playing my new favorite game, Two Lies and a Truth. So Devin, Josh, and Harvey have already been primed on this game. So for you, I'm going to say 3 startup names, and you're going to tell me which one's real. The other 2 are fake. So we're looking for the real one. I'm not going to make you go first. Harvey is looking for redemption, so we're going to start with him.
Oh, I'm so ready for this.
All right. So Harvey, your 3 names are Rootmates, OmniHall, Deepstream. Which one's real?
Oh, my goodness.
What was the first one more time?
Rootmates, route mates, depending on where you're from, I guess. Route mates, OmniHall, Deepstream.
You know, I'm feeling Deepstream today.
Hey!
Yes.
Again, I feel like you texted him in a private chat to get him to feel. I didn't want him to walk off the podcast today.
This just set up my whole day.
Now it's a good day. All right, you're welcome, Devin, then. Josh, now is your turn. All right, pressure's on.
Hold on, Dev, just feedback. I am awful I have gotten none of the icebreakers correct. No matter what it's been, I have been god awful. So I'm hoping with you here, my luck will change.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay? You got it, Elena.
All right, Josh. Bridge blocks with an X, Nexusify, and Pickertech.
Oh, boy.
Don't make me say it again. Nexusify.
Well, it's not that one because you laughed, so I'm not going to go with that one. Read me the first one and the third one again.
Bridge blocks with an X and Pickertech. Picker is Pickr.
I'm going to... last time I did something with an X and it didn't end well for me, I'm going to go with Pickertech.
Woo! 2 for
Wow.
2. All right, Devin, you got a lot of pressure now.
Pressure's on.
By the way, if you work at any of these companies, just reach out to us. We'll have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Would love to talk. Okay, Devin.
All right, Devin, here we go. Portcast, Chain Crafters, Supply Sense.
Oh, okay. Strong gut feeling. Supply sense.
It's
I'm so sorry.
option. I know.
Portcast
sounds
is
so
the
good.
winner this time.
What's it called?
I know. That Portcast is the winner,
Podcast. Okay.
but I made that tricky because Supply Sense does sound like it is a company name, but it's not supply chain. I believe I found out in my research. So you're not totally wrong.
Asterisk.
Half point.
You should appeal. I appeal.
Yeah.
I have an
Yeah.
appeal. All right.
Well, next podcast, I'll
Right now with Elena.
Yeah. Send me an email. I'll work through the appeals.
Okay.
Thank you, Elena. And I just feel good about myself that we could just end the podcast and go home. I did. Ever get back to you on another date. I mean, I got to go celebrate with a cocktail at 1 o'clock in the morning. I feel good about myself.
At the James place. We can plug
Yes.
it. We can plug it.
Plug it away. I love it. I love it. All right, Devin, we're going to spend time plugging you. So Squint.ai, give us the 2-minute overview on who you are and what in the heck you guys are doing.
Okay. Let's see. So my name is Devin Bhushan. I'm the founder and CEO here at Squint. I'll give you the background. So Squint was founded in 2021. My background is software engineering, specifically spent a lot of time in the augmented reality space. And prior to this, I was building an augmented reality product for like the industrial world for a few years before Squint. And in general, in tech, I think we just haven't seen a successful enterprise AR product yet, right? And that really wasn't for lack of trying. So what I noticed was that all of like the existing products were pretty hard to use. There were a lot of technical limitations around requiring QR codes or 3D models, things that made the getting started process really hard. And then the authoring experience for these AR workflows was never quite easy enough to be worth the squeeze, right? Like the process of creating these like workflows was so hard that it wasn't worth creating them in the first place. And so in 2021, also noticed some trends in manufacturing. So turnover was going up and it was very high. The investment in the space was growing. And there was this big wave of retirement that people are starting to think about and talk about, right? So I figured that was the kind of the why now question was that. And so the time was now to build kind of the next generation of software for the industrial workforce. And our team had this background in AI and AR, and we're really motivated to build the simplest possible interface for operators. So the way that Squint works is you can actually go out there and record a video of an expert doing the work. So just an operator on the line doing their job. And our AI will actually watch and learn from that video, and it will instantly write the SOP for you. So now that once you have that SOP, you can actually hand that tablet or a phone to any other operator, and they don't have to know anything about this process, and they'll be able to follow that same SOP. And Squint will use augmented reality to guide them. And it'll do this in 36 different languages. So depending on whatever language the operator speaks. And so, for example, they'll see arrows that take them to the exact lever that they need to pull for step 2. And then Squint will show them images and videos kind of as examples, as well as they're completing this process, it'll automatically record data from the floor and eliminate all the paper that used to accompany these processes. So things like paper checklists, forms, all of this goes away. The new operators perform at the level of expert operators, and expert operators really have on-the-job reference for whenever they need it. So in a nutshell, that's what Squint is.
Which is crazy to think about. And folks should go to your website to see it in action. Okay, so today in CPG land, people might be familiar with kind of like that first gen solution, which was, RealWear and some of those other folks that had, the headsets where they could come in and kind of do that worker assist platform. So they might be familiar with that, but this and what you're describing is that second wave, right? Like this is a much less intrusive, much more intuitive process to be able to kind of upskill and really increase your onboarding time, I would guess, for your deskless workforce. Is that right? Like when you work with some of your customers, kind of what's that business case that your customers are most excited about to work with you?
Yeah, there's kind of 3 areas where I think Squint makes the biggest impact. So one is that authoring process, right? So just today, I think one observation I've had is in talking to all of our customers across the board, we hear resounding feedback that nobody likes to document, right? It's like, and actually this doesn't even just apply to manufacturing. If you go look at like any person who's a professional in any domain, they don't like to document their work. Like I'm a software engineer, and go ask any software engineer, no one likes writing documentation, right? And so this applies in manufacturing too. So the first kind of really easy thing that people do with Squint is it removes all the documentation. By just taking a video, we can turn that like 7.5-hour process of making a complex, detailed SOP into, a 6-minute video recording, and maybe you spend 10 minutes on the editing side. So that's kind of one value prop that Squint provides at the front end of it. Now, when you're actually training new operators, or you're giving them Squint to help them walk through maybe an inspection process or whatever it may be, the thing that people get really excited about is that it's made it so that they don't have to memorize anything, right? A lot of our customers talk about the biggest reason for turnover in exit interviews, for instance, has been lack of confidence. So just not knowing, like, what am I supposed to be doing, not being sure in my actions, results in like this lack of confidence, which really creates an insecurity. And you're like, I don't know if I should keep working here. And so we're eliminating that lack of confidence. We're bringing them up to speed. Every step of the way, they have that support, and it also speeds them up. So a lot of our customers have seen that this actually, in the CPG space, we've seen that it makes them twice as fast completing procedures in Squint. So for instance, if you have an experienced operator and they used to take 40 minutes to complete a valve inspection, you could give them Squint. And what we find is that that time is reduced to 20 minutes, just because they know exactly where to go. They know exactly what they're looking for. All the paperwork is eliminated. So, that's maybe value prop number 2. And then I'll say the third value prop is after they're trained and they're actually working on the floor every day, right? So we've actually found that using Squint reduces their downtime, just because now they have access to the things that may not happen every day, the things that maybe they haven't been trained on in a year, things that this machine broke in a certain way that, Josh on third shift is the only one who's fixed it before. You can actually go ask, you can go ask Squint Copilot a question, and Josh doesn't have to wake up in the middle of the night and come out here. Copilot will actually guide you through that process too. And so those are kind of the 3 areas where we see impact.
Devin, when you're working with a company, typically it's pretty easy for me to figure out this is a chief supply chain officer. That's the person that you're connecting with, or it's the innovation team, or it's a transportation team. Who is the target audience that you are trying to connect with at a potential partner? Which part of their business is the right person for you to be directly engaged with?
Yeah, I think, part of the magic of Squint is that we have customers in like every vertical within manufacturing and supply chain. And what we've found is that there's use cases that we haven't even thought of, right? So every customer we work with thinks of new things that they want to apply Squint to. One example actually that is outside of supply chain entirely is in my house, I have Squint that can show you how to water all of my plants the right way and keeps track of the schedule, right? So take that example and you can apply that to really any industry. So I would say I can give you some examples of people we connect with, but it also just varies because it's the people who have a vision to apply technology to really make operations more efficient. So what we see is, a plant manager is a great person to talk to because they're hearing every day from their teams what those problems are on the floor and where they want to invest time. They're seeing where turnover is, why turnover is happening. Another example would be like a training manager, a maintenance manager, a production manager. Those are people who actually are hands-on with like the specific use cases of Squint, and their teams are working on it. If you go up a level into corporate, I think the ones you mentioned are great examples. Typically, innovation teams are working on a goal like, let's figure out if we can reduce training time, or let's figure out if we can increase efficiency in some way, or downtime, whatever that goal may be. We've probably got an angle there. And then, on the corporate side, I think it varies. It depends on kind of, I would say, executives with a vision to actually improve operations. We can probably work with you and find a way to customize Squint for your organization's needs.
On the product side, shout out quickly to Gary Binstock at Colgate. He was telling me that you guys have some really cool tech for mistakes and errors in that process. Tell the audience a little bit about how that works.
Yeah.
So going through the recording and the operator makes a mistake or an error, you guys are able to just take that out right away. Like the AI knows this was not correct, right? Am I getting the gist of it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I know what story Gary's thinking of. So I'll give you an example. We had, I think we talked about how documentation is like nobody's favorite thing. So the way that Squint works is you actually record a video, and if you're trying to document an SOP, it will watch the video and it will go write that SOP for you, right? I think the naive way of building the software would have been that you take the recording, you get the transcript, and you basically turn it into a guide. Now, that's tough because humans aren't perfect, right? And when humans are recording a 3-hour-long procedure, it's hard to expect them to actually like get every step of the process correct the first time. And so if you take that recording and you literally turn it into something, you'll capture like background conversations, you'll capture mistakes, you'll capture them realizing halfway through that they skipped a step. And so what we've built is we've actually built a multi-layer, like a multi-level, multi-agent, like AI pipeline that actually takes that video in, and it goes through levels of checks where it actually thinks through what was the intent here. So it's not a direct transcript. We had an example where a customer was recording a very long, like an hour plus long procedure, and somewhere in between they were waiting for a press to finish, and they had like a 10-minute conversation about the Chiefs game the weekend before. And now that was picked up obviously in this recording. So I was afraid that, the thing we get back is going to be like step 7, like Patrick Mahomes throws a touchdown, and step 8, like Travis Kelce. Yeah, exactly. So I was afraid of like quality issues. And this is like one of the things that is just totally marvelous about AI is that if you have the right like agentic workflows, then it is able to figure that out. And it actually took those out. It took that whole conversation out. It will also do things like understand that step 7 happened, and then right after the operator said, oh wait, make sure to pull this thing or pull this lever before you do that, because if you don't, it might mess up the next step. And it will actually take what it understood and rearrange the steps for you, and then make it so that it was what was intended, not what was said. So very interesting, very like high tolerance workflow building tool.
So Devin, 2-part question for you, because I had to touch on this with the plant watering exercise. Mr. Williams is the proud father of 2 little ones with an amazing wife. There's got to be some things you can build for him to be better around the home. I mean, I'm sure his wife would appreciate that. So let's take that offline, but I know that would be optimal for helping him in his household. Me, I'm a lost cause. I have 6 kids, and I just abandoned ship already. I can't. There's no help for me. But Harvey is salvageable. We can fix him.
Yeah, I think can't we all benefit from a little guidance?
I mean, think about garbage, doing the dishes, making the bed. I mean, there's got to be lots of things, Harvey, that we can get fixed for you. Again, I'm a hopeless cause.
Yeah. I mean, fun fact,
cappuccino machine.
Yep.
No,
fun fact. Before we actually landed on the manufacturing space, we thought a lot about, like, I literally almost built Squint into an app for Airbnb hosts, which, if you think about it, like almost the same exact concept, right? But you have guests that visit the home and they don't know how to use your thermostat. They don't know how to use your grill. They don't know how to use your fire pit. Like, you're in a nice Airbnb, you want to use all the amenities, right? And typically you're faced with that like binder. When you get in and the binder just has like pictures and instructions, it's basically an SOP. So Harvey, if you have a binder at home, we could probably still make this use case work. I think Squint definitely works for this audience. Yeah. We just haven't figured out the go-to-market.
If you're listening, call
Devin, a serious question for you though. You look at your website and you got big brand, big logos on there that you're working with. Congratulations. I mean, newer startups would love to have some of those brands logos. We just hosted out at Manifest, and every single corporate partner wanted to talk to Devin and Squint. I was pulling people over. Here's Devin, here's Squint. What's the secret? Like, why are you getting so much traction so quickly with these major corporations?
Yeah, can I offer a hot take?
Please.
Oh,
okay.
As many as you got.
Okay. I think there's like we've spent a lot of time thinking about the user experience and making sure that the implementation and onboarding to this product is like as close to zero as possible in terms of effort needed, time needed. And I think the trend that I'm seeing in industry right now is people are investing very heavily in automation, and oftentimes that like investment is directed into autonomous robots. And I think that's great. Like I'm super excited about autonomous robots myself. Like growing up as a kid, it was always like a dream to see that actually come to life, and we're so close. But at the same time, we're not there yet in terms of practicality for the factory floor, right? So I'm in like the different factories all the time. So like every other week, I'm in a facility where I'm walking through, and in the corner, I see this corner of like the graveyard of robots that they have. And it's always just like all of the autonomous expensive robots that they've tried to purchase that don't quite work. Or like maintenance is working on them. And I hear the story all the time. But I think like in terms of investment, there's actually really low hanging fruit in investing into the people. The people on the floor are about to retire. I think turnover is at an all-time high. That tribal knowledge is walking out the door. And that's really how we've thought about Squint is like, humans do very powerful, complex work. How can we give them superpowers and ensure that we build systems to actually learn and capture that knowledge from them so we can, in the future, hook into these like, whether it be an autonomous robot or whether it be training another human, but like really capture all of this while it's still around. And that's kind of the value prop that we try to explain to customers or to, people we talk to. And I think there's been a lot of resonance on that side, that it's so easy to implement. You might as well do this before this knowledge walks out the door.
Well, on top of that, it's just so easy to understand. Like the way that you just talked about it in layman's words, and I joke on these podcasts, like half this technology is way over my head and Harvey has to explain it to me like I'm a third grader. But like what you're doing is just it just makes so much sense. And when you explain it like that, how could you not be interested and engaged in hearing about your product?
And Josh and I were having this conversation with the CPG the other day. Same conversation. What's the business objective? And then let's work backwards from there. And maybe the low-hanging fruit is, how do we think about your deskless workforce today? And are there ways that we can get to that same place or even halfway there that produces the ROI that you want versus going into the really cool, sexy stuff, which is robotics. But, the robotics industry for at least the next, I'm going to put a date on it. It's going to be wrong. And
I didn't put a date on it for that reason.
At least the next 12 months, I'm going to be conservative. We're still going to be in pilot phase in a lot of different applications inside of a warehouse or a factory when it comes to AMRs and picking robots, right? Some of those have moved out into production, especially on the AMR side, but all this other stuff, we just haven't gotten there from a safety point of view where we feel comfortable putting them into live production environments at scale. Maybe that's my qualifier for anyone out there that wants to disagree. And it can be risky if you're working at a CPG, if you're working in a larger corporate environment where that's going to be kind of a career-defining project for you. And are we ready yet or not? That's kind of the question. And I agree. The more immediate ROI opportunities to go with someone like a Squint and start to prove that value proposition out in a very lightweight, low-lift way, and then expand from there. So yeah, I love that hot take. It resonates. What else you got?
Other hot takes. I don't know.
What happened to AR? Just with your background, right? AR, we had this big wave, and it had the similar hype, in TechCrunch and all the other publications back in 17 and 18 for industrial use cases, and then it kind of went away. More or less, companies kind of came in and out of existence and favor, and now are we on the cusp of a little resurgence? What do you...
You're talking like across the board, right? So investment, for instance, from Apple into Vision Pro and like software now getting better to a point where, like Squint, it's adaptable and pretty complex. Is that where you're going in that direction?
the industrial use case for AR. Not, I mean, the consumer, yes, because they're probably in lockstep a little bit as talent flows between both sides. But yeah, I'm curious what you think, because before this, we didn't even touch on this. Maybe this is a good time. Before you started Squint, you came from an AR background as well, right? So how have you seen that trajectory?
Yeah. I mean, I can share. So like, prior to Squint, I was at a company called Splunk. And Splunk works with really big data, and really historically has had a very technical audience where it required a lot of, prior technical knowledge or training to be able to use the product to a degree that let you get insights out of this database. So we built an augmented reality app for industrial customers who actually had, frontline workers who needed the insights but didn't really need to get trained on Splunk to get to that data. So I worked on this for about 4 years, and I saw a lot of things, right? And I think the biggest observations were we talked a little bit about this, but like the creation side, like being able to create an AR experience required a QR code or required a CAD model. And that's just like so onerous. If you're the manufacturer and you're thinking about implementing this new technology, and the first thing you have to do before you pilot it or POC it is you actually have to print out a QR code for every piece of equipment on the floor. It's just like, it's like too much to ask, right? It's like a big investment for a pilot, just to see if this thing will even solve the problem that you maybe have a hypothesis on. So you do that and you roll out 10,000 QR codes. And now you've done that, your one site is ready to go. Now you get to creating the process. And it's like, okay, now you have to go hop on your computer and go through a workflow creation tool that creates the process. Now you go into a third app that pulls in the CAD model, and now you map the process to the model. And then you go put it on a headset that you put on the face of an operator, and you spend probably a week training them on how to use that headset. And once you've trained them on how to use the headset and all the stuff is created, they go to work. Now, the worst thing that can happen is tomorrow the process changes. And you're just like, now that whole cycle starts again, right? Or the machine moves, or like someone welds an arm on because it's a process improvement and the CAD model doesn't detect it anymore. So there's all sorts of like pitfalls in this like traditional approach to AR. And what we did was we just tried to get rid of all of them. So like Squint doesn't require any QR codes. It doesn't require a CAD model. All of the creation is like in the app. And we, in fact, even tried to remove a lot of the creation with the AI steps. If anything changes, you can quickly edit, almost like a Google Doc. You can also just record a new video and replace a step of it. The operators know how to use phones. So that's one thing we haven't talked about, but our like delivery mechanism for this experience is just a phone or a tablet, some device that everyone has already and is familiar with. So you don't have to then train them on the device that trains them on their job. So we just tried to remove these hurdles, and I think that's really unblocked us in like kicking off with all of these really large customers, because there's always been the demand. There just hasn't been the level of investment to get it off the ground to see if it was worth it.
Devin, just to be clear, if Splunk was one of the three choices in the icebreaker, I probably would have gotten that wrong. No offense to the name Splunk, but I would have said that's not a real name of a startup. But what does your team look like? I know, again, you're super impressive, but obviously you're one of many there. What's the staffing? What's the team look like? How is the team built, and what does the next 3 to 6 months of team growth look like?
Yeah, let's see. So pretty crazy growth over the past year. So about a year ago, we were 4 people. And now we are, roughly like 25. And we've grown a lot. We've also learned a lot about like what roles we really need. And so a lot of us like initially were doing something else like a year ago. So the founding team at least is myself, Jim Zhu and Dylan Conway. I worked with them both at Splunk as well. So we kind of had this background of like knowing augmented reality, knowing industrial customers, knowing data. And, so Jim leads our engineering efforts, and then Dylan works with all of our customers. So Dylan and Gary are best friends. I think they text a lot about their vacations and things. But now I would say investment going forward is heavily on the go-to-market side. So, we're in a fortunate position where honestly we can't keep up with the demand of kicking off new customers, and so we're hiring a lot on the implementation side just to be able to stand up more customers per month. We're also hiring a lot on the sales side to be able to kick off more of these conversations and actually take the kind of inbound that we have. So that's where we're looking to grow the company now. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I mean, going from 4 to 25 speaks to the revenue that you guys are generating and the partnerships that you're doing. Obviously, you couldn't put 25 people on payroll if the business wasn't at a trajectory that it's going on right now. So that's exciting to see.
And then on the go-to-market, obviously we're focused on manufacturing today, but very, very large logistics community in Bentonville, right? Have you guys thought about what this might look like inside of a warehouse, perhaps for transportation teams, trucking teams? Like, can Squint be adapted to those workflows?
Yeah, we've done a couple of explorations into the space. I can share an example. On the trucking side, one of our customers actually uses Squint for pre-drive checklists. So for before you get on the road, you actually have to just inspect the equipment, make sure that certain check off certain boxes, do checks on certain pieces, make sure that it'll be a safe drive. And so that actually can live in Squint as well. So similar to the coffee example or the watering your plants, you can kind of put Squint anywhere. So we put it on trucks, and you can map the model of truck, and Squint will walk the driver through every stop, every piece of equipment that they have to check or record a value from. It will automate all of that with the human, and then it makes these checklists way safer, make sure they're implemented, captures the evidence for later, things like that. That's one example. I think we're also working quite a bit with customers who have forklifts and other devices in factories, and I think a lot of those use cases will translate as well to the warehouse on the logistics side, and along with inspections, maintenance. I don't know. I think I would encourage, if anyone listening is on the logistics side and sees kind of the vision of being able to bring augmented reality and AI workflow into their space, I would love to connect and we can run more pilots and actually kind of break through together in the space.
It seems like for new drivers or for new forklift operators or whomever, you're decreasing that onboarding and ramp time dramatically. Where it might take a couple of weeks to get a new employee up and running, really, it's probably worth, for the folks listening, checking out Squint to see how much you can shave off of that ramp time so that employee can start to go live for you much, much sooner.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll add, I thought of two more things while you were talking, which was on the safety side and then the audit side, right? So on the safety side, I think it's something that, every customer I've talked to is investing in heavily, but being able to be sure that if that person does get stuck or if they are going off memory, then they at least have something as a backup plan that will walk them through, here's how to properly do this check. So there's no guessing happening, right? And then on the audit side, because they use Squint and because we have the camera open and because Squint actually knows who is using it and what's happening, Squint is creating an audit trail behind the scenes. And so when you look at the data, you can actually see that things were performed and you see evidence of that. And so if anything does happen and you need to go back and find that evidence, it's actually right there. So Squint has captured it. It's logged, documented who did what at what time, right? So all of these things are also reasons to think about this.
Insurance companies, give Devin a call.
Well, Harvey, I was going to ask you because I know that you're very excited, super bullish on Devin and Squint, and I don't really have to ask you why because you're giving all these glowing signals around when we talk about Airbnb or insurance companies. There's so many use cases, and I mean, he's going to get into just about any company because when we're dealing with some startups, they're super narrow and super focused, and that's that. They can be, but there's such a wide opportunity for them to engage with a company. You as an investor in some of these lots of startups, you personally have to be very excited about Devin and team.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's like a one of one. In plug and play, we just don't see anything quite like this. Obviously, Devin's raised a bunch of money. He has a bunch of fans in the investor community. So yeah, I mean, I think what Devin's doing is awesome, and picking that go to market and kind of continuing to land and expand inside of manufacturing is important. Yes, and then just feeling out other industries that start to prove out valuable go to market strategies for him, so he can expand. Is probably what the next 24 months, 36 months. I don't know how you guys are thinking about it, but one thing that plug and play will try to do and help you, Devin, is figure out which of those industries might be worth your time to explore once you get ready to go outside of manufacturing, right? Is it logistics, right? Or is it, okay, how do we sell into insurance companies? There's a lot there. So yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool to watch. And two, it's fun to see this after kind of going through the initial industrial AR, V1 back in like the late 2018-19 period. And then see what's coming next. That's the fun part, which is what Devin's working on.
Devin, my last question for you, and I feel like we can go for 3 hours because this has been fascinating and there's so much to cover here. Shameless plug, but what's your working relationship been like with Plug and Play? How have, for other startups that may or may not be in our ecosystem just yet, some of the value and benefits of working with Harvey and team and some of the exposure that's provided to you guys?
Yeah,
We'll shout out Sean on the Plug and Play side.
Shout out to Sean.
Because I know Sean has been working the closest with Devin over the past few months.
Yeah. I really enjoy working with Sean. And actually the whole Plug and Play team has been really incredible. I think I can call it some highlights. Maybe that's helpful. To other startups out there, I think it's like a total no-brainer to work with Plug and Play because the amount of connections that you all have with industry, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality, these connections are very strong. So like for us, we're often finding that it unblocks us in getting to that right person. So you asked earlier, who do we talk to? But like getting to that person can be challenging sometimes because they're not always out looking for these sorts of products. But Plug and Play has connected us, both at the corporate executive level as well as, in the weeds to the person who actually needs Squint. And it's been like, it's directionally changed our like go-to-market strategy. There's been dozens of introductions, I think, now that we're working with either at a pilot level or even further along. I think another thing I really value is in-person events that get put on. So there's a bunch of these in-person events in Sunnyvale that I go to that, you get to meet, like we had a meeting with the CIO of Colgate-Palmolive a few weeks ago, and that was invaluable. Colgate-Palmolive is already a customer of Squint, but this meeting was just so helpful in all of us thinking through the strategy and the future deployments and kind of unblocking our current champion, Gary, in terms of how we should think about extending where Squint can be applicable. So I would 100% recommend if there's an opportunity for startups to work with.
Thanks for the plug, Devin. Josh, as always, can't get out of a podcast without helping other entrepreneurs realize the benefits that might be waiting for them to work with us. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, Devin, and that's kind of our North Star, right? We want to just facilitate as many high value, hopefully qualified connections and opportunities as possible between our enterprise clients and our corporate partners and the startup community at large.
And in fairness, you make it super easy for us because, again, you see Harvey's glowing. He's got 2 little ones. So you're like the 3rd little one. Like you can see he's so proud of you guys and what we're doing. So it's really easy to make introductions for people that we like and companies that we're really, really bullish on. So, yes, it's been our pleasure to make those introductions.
Thanks, guys.
Many more to come.
Many more,
Devin. Josh, take us out.
Devin, how do folks get in touch with you? Is there a LinkedIn? Is there an email address? Is there a website for the company? How would folks get in touch with you and the team?
We have all of those. So our website is squint.ai. So Squint, like SQUINT.ai. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Devin Bhushan. Or you can email me at devin@squint.ai, DEVIN.
Yeah, perfect. Let's plan to have you back because I'd imagine 6 to 12 months from now, the team of 25 is probably 2x that with 10 more case studies that we can brag on with you and for you. So real exciting and a pleasure. Thank you for making the time for us today and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Devin.